Hello and welcome to our webinar, Caregiver SOS, Resources for Caregivers. My name is Mike Bias. I'm with the Alzheimer's Association. I'm coming to you from Central Illinois. And before I introduce our speaker, I want to let you know that if you're joining us live and you have any questions or comments, you can type them in at the bottom of your screen in the Q&A pod. The Q&A pod is confidential, so no one else can see your name or your comment or your question, just me. So obviously, to the left of your screen is our PowerPoint presentation, and if you're watching this as a recording, you can click to download all of those notes right where you click to launch this webinar at alzwebinars.org. Our speaker today is coming to us from Evansville, Indiana. Her name is Brianne Hill. Brianne is a community outreach coordinator with the Alzheimer's Association Greater Kentucky and Southern Indiana chapter. She's a licensed social worker and a graduate of University of Southern Indiana. Her previous experience as a nurse and personal caregiving journey has led her to be an advocate for caregiver support. So she's been there, done that, and knows a lot about how to help those of you who are caregivers find the resources that you need. Welcome, Brianne. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing good.
I'll go ahead and turn off my webcam, and I'll let you take it away.
Great. Thank you, Mike. As Mike said, I previously was a nurse, so I worked in long-term care, and I thought, hey, I know how to navigate this disease. I got this, right? But then I became an actual caregiver and realized the medical component of things sometimes is not enough. I didn't know community resources. I didn't have those long-term skills for that chronic type of caregiving. So I ended up going back to school for social work and thought, hey, how can I work with caregivers to help fight those obstacles that I faced? So I just want to thank you for being here today because I think the most important thing that we can do with this disease is talk about it. We can break the stigma and isolation that comes sometimes with caring for people with this disease or other dementias. When we just talk about it, hey, sometimes it's hard and we need resources. One thing we all know about caregiving doesn't matter what type of disease or chronic condition you're caring for somebody with, we can't do it alone, right? So we don't want you to do it alone. We want to be there for you. So that's what we'll talk about today is some of those resources. So getting started, just talking about what is a caregiver, who's a caregiver. Just simply, if you care for somebody who's experiencing some type of condition, you're giving care. You care about them and their well-being. So looking at caring for a person with Alzheimer's or dementia, it involves a team of people. And you're probably thinking, I don't have one of those. I know I thought that. I would read these things and it said your care team, and I was like, wouldn't that be great? So we're going to talk about that. So if you have a great support system, that's great, and we want you to continue to grow that. If you haven't built one yet, let's talk about how you can get one. So looking at our picture there on the top, we start the care team with the family. Who in your family can help support that person? You know, is it your uncle? Is it a brother? Maybe it's a long lost relative that you don't talk to, but when they find out, they may have things to share. So then we start to really grow into that medical community outside of family. So that could be doctors, nurses, physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapy. Build that medical support. Do you have doctors who you list that can listen to you? Do you have some medical professionals that you can turn to when you need support? And then growing up that bigger circle, you see the icon there with the little people. That's who's out in the community, your peers. Maybe that's your church family, or maybe that's high school friends, or anybody. Just bringing in those people who can help as well. And looking down at the bottom, we have the little person typing on the laptop, and that represents work, right? Your career. So if you're actively employed, maybe there's caregiving benefits that are tied to your job. For example, we have a large factory here. They have started a support group for caregivers at the factory because so many people were affected by caregiving. And companies know there's a big loss of revenue because people are missing work because they have to call in or they're working reduced hours. So more companies are stepping up to really help caregivers who are working. If you're retired, there may still be some benefits, you know, looking at the VA, all kinds of things. So looking back at your previous employer or your employer, what may be offered there to help. Then finishing that circle is community resources. And that's going to be our focus today. What is out in that community, like with the Alzheimer's Association and other places? What community people can support you? So I just want to start off by saying if you don't think you're a caregiver and you're here, you probably are. I used to fall into that trap of I'm just a granddaughter. I'm just, it's just a spouse. It's just my job. But when we really recognize that we are the ones providing care, we can start to build those caregiving resources. So this is what we're going to talk about today, some resources for you that can be tailor-made to your situation. So we'll talk about the things that the Alzheimer's Association has to offer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then we're going to look at local resources that are out in your community. One of the most important tools that I think we have to offer is the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week helpline. And that helpline is a place that you can call in and ask so many questions. So looking here, it talks about that you can speak confidentiality with master level care consults. So that's somebody who's equipped to handle anything that you can throw at them. So maybe you're just calling to say, hey, I don't know why I'm calling, but I'm just feeling stressed or I don't know where to start. They can start that path for you. Or if you're in crisis and it's 2 a.m. and you're thinking, I don't know if I can do this tomorrow. I don't know if I have the strength to go through this again. Call and get that support that you need. Let's look at the phone number here for it. So you can call 1-800-272-3900. And like I said, it's 24 hours a day. So if it's Christmas, if families come in, there's a lot of things that happen that day and you're feeling pretty stressed, you can call that. And you may just be asking, hey, where's a support group in my area? I don't even know how to start this disease education process. What is Alzheimer's disease? What if this isn't? How do I find out if it's something different? You can talk about obstacles that you're facing. You can then create an action plan with the person on the phone. So they're going to listen to what's going on, take those next steps, help you prepare. What's coming up? What do I do after this? I know as a caregiver, I often was like, where do I start? I don't even know where to start dealing with this problem. So they can really help tailor an action plan to you. And then it may be just finding a local program. Maybe you want to just get out in the community and come to something. You can actually register there. There's so many things that our helpline has to offer. So just making that first step to call in and see what they can help with. So if phone calls are not for you, we have some different online tools that are really interesting. So allsconnected.org is the first one that I'll talk about today. It's online, it's completely anonymous, and it's available 24 hours a day. On our earlier webinar, somebody had the question of, is it really anonymous? Yes, you can make up whatever name that you want to on this forum. So we have two forums. One is for the caregiver, and you can see the orange arrow there talking about the caregiver forum. And then there's one for people living with the disease. And I think that's equally important that we support people with the disease so they could go on there and talk about symptoms or talk about how they're feeling. Then we have the caregivers forum where caregivers can talk about anything. So how you get started is you click the Join Now button, which is up there at the top with the orange arrow. You register, and then you have access. So we'll look at one of the places that I think is important to start on allsconnected.org. It's the Solution Center. So when you go in, you'll have all these options of places that you can visit. And the Solution Center, I think, is great because it just gives you that baseline education about some things. So if you're thinking, I don't know about this behavior, I wonder if this is something that's to be expected, or, I have questions about safety. How do I start having a safety checklist for my house and know what to do? This is a good place to start. So once you click it, it'll open up topic sheets that you can read or you can print, and really start to get some of that base information. So I like to start at the Solution Center just to get that baseline started. Then you can go back to the forums. So this is what it looks like when you register and you go into the forum or the message boards. And then you can pick the forum that's best for you. So the one that I pointed out was the Caregivers forum, and that's a place for caregivers to talk. So I like to go back and you can read some of the previous things. So if you were having trouble, you know, with bathing and you want to find out what are some tips about this, you may go back and read where somebody had that same question and you can read responses, or you can post a new question. Maybe you want to get some feedback about something. It's just a great place to read and talk with other people. So when you go in, it's kind of like this is a different language. They have all these abbreviations and I don't know what they are. So the other arrow is pointing to some of the commonly used abbreviations. So that's helpful. You can always go back to that and think, memory care, and see what's that. So you'll have that to kind of help you get adjusted. And then there's chat rooms. So on the message board, somebody may have put something and you didn't get a quick response or you didn't see anything. In this chat room, it's live. So you can write something, ask a question, then get immediate feedback. You could just introduce yourself or just chat with somebody. So that's live. So anybody that's on, you'll be able to interact with them right away. And then there's groups where you can kind of form your own group and talk with other people. All's Connected is just a great way to connect with other caregivers out in the community. It's a safe space and you can be anonymous and it's always accessible. So I think it's just a great tool. And then we have alz.org. That website is so full of information. I used it before I even joined the association to help people. There's just so many great things on there. What I wanted to focus on today, though, was how to access some of our caregiving tools. So the first arrow points to help and support. So you'll go to alz.org, you'll go to help and support, then you'll go to caregiving, which is where the other arrow is. So that's what it looks like when you go in and it opens up a box. And then this is pretty much what you're going to see down the rest of the page, what to expect. And I think as caregivers, sometimes it's really stressful. You're thinking, oh, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I don't know what to expect next. I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. So everyone's disease process is different, but this kind of gives you that overall general expectation of these are some things that I can do to plan. And I think the better the plan you have, the more knowledge you have, then the more confident you feel waiting for that shoe to drop. So there's early stage caregiving, late stage caregiving, middle stage, and maybe you're just wanting to know, hey, this behavior is happening. What stage could this be, or is this typical? You can go there. And that's where all those topic sheets are and just so much information. Then if you scroll down a little bit further, you're going to see Get Support. And that's our care training resources. So maybe you can't go out to a program like the 10 Morning Signs out in the community, but you really want to hear that information. You can go there, you can watch the training, so you can watch videos of the presentations, all types of things. There's so much information there. And then caregiver health. So I always tell caregivers, be healthy. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself and you're thinking, okay, how do I do that? Where do I start? What is being healthy? Healthy means different things to everybody. So that's a good place to go to just see what are some tools for me to make sure that I'm doing the best that I can. What are some tools for helping with caregiver stress? What is caregiver stress? So that's a great place to start there. And then find your local chapter. If you want to connect with a chapter in your community, you can go there and link to their website. And then support groups. I think support groups are so powerful because when you are in that room with other people who are all in different stages, so support group may have people who are early stage, mid stage, late stage. Their person may have passed and they want to come back and share their wisdom with other people. It could just be that they suspect the person may have the disease, but they're not sure how to even start that conversation. So you can get tips and support each other. So much happens in that support group that it just changes the way that we care give. So the support group, you could go there and find a local support group. These are the Alzheimer's Association endorsed support groups that you'll find there. Any of this information, you could also call the 24/7 helpline and they can link you to that as well. But this is just something you could look at any time of the day. And then we have the ALS Navigator. So allsnavigator.org. Like I said, a lot of us are just in that cycle of like, where do I start? So this is a great place to start. You can take a general assessment if you're not sure what you need help with, you're not sure what information you need. You'll go through, it'll ask you some questions, you'll answer them, and then it will give you a plan of action. So these are the steps that you could take next. These are the people that you could call. This is the referral that could help you. And you're just going to work through that list. If you know what you're concerned about, then you can just go right over to the left of that. What do you want to know? So safety. You click that, you're going to take an assessment, and then it's going to outline what could benefit you. What are your next action steps? Maybe it's printing out that safety checklist and going through that. Or maybe they say, hey, you should call the 24/7 helpline. There's maybe something we need to talk through with you. So it's just a great place to actually have steps of what needs to come next. Sometimes that's the hardest thing when we're really overwhelmed. It's just taking those first steps. So this is a safe place to do that. It's just going to be you filling that out. And then the last action step may be linking you to community resources. And that brings us to our next website that we have, the communityresourcefinder.org. And that website helps connect you to your local area. So there's a lot of people from different states that are on this webinar, and we're keeping it general because of that. So this is how you go directly to your local resources. So with the Alzheimer's Association programs and events, that's how you find those classes that are in your area. That's how you may find that support group. Then there's AARP's programs and events here at home. So that could be trying to find home care options. It could be home health, hospice providers. The association does not endorse any specific provider. We stay completely unbiased, but it just gives you a list to start checking, who could help me get care in the home. Community services, that could be your local area agency on aging, elder law attorneys, adult day, all types of things. Housing options, that could be skilled nursing facilities, independent living, assisted living, those type of places. And then medical services. You may be thinking, hey, my husband's not even been to the doctor. I don't know where to start finding one that could help see if this is something we need to be concerned about. So it'll give you a list of medical providers in your area, neurologists, doctors, psychiatrists, places for you to start. So I really like this because sometimes we think, okay, I got to find a doctor. There's so many, I don't know where to start. So you could print out the list and you could work through them finding the right fit for you. So this is what it looks like. I had clicked for the association's programs and events, and this box will pop up. So then we have to decide, what are we looking for? And I was looking for a support group. So you type in your zip code and you hit search. And then it will populate the listing. So it shows me that the next caregiver support group in my area is going to be March 9th. So it gives you the exact information, times, where to go, and then you can register from there. So it's just a great tool to find out, hey, it's 2 a.m. and now's my free time because my loved one's resting and I don't get a break during the day to do this. I want to find out, where a support group is or something. So this is just a great tool to use anytime. We talked a little bit about some of the resources you can use 24/7. So now we're going to look at local resources. A care consultation is something that the association provides where you can meet with somebody from your local chapter. It may be by phone or in person, and you can talk about what's going on. You can let them know, hey, this is where I'm at, and we'll meet you where you're at, and maybe we need to give you some information, or maybe we need to work through a crisis, or maybe we need to come up with some action steps. This can also be done by our 24/7 helpline, but if you're looking for somebody local, that's an option. Those support groups, we can help you find one. Education programs and early stage programs. Early stage programs may be something like Memory Cafe. It's something that I do here at this chapter. And I had a coworker who said once, it is just moments of joy. And I love that because Memory Cafe is a social engagement group where we get together, people with the disease and their care partner, and we just celebrate being together. The disease is not part of that. We just celebrate those moments of joy. And I think it's really important to make sure that we keep that social interaction and, like I said earlier, reduce that stigma of what it's like to have this disease, and also reduce that isolation that sometimes this disease can bring to us. Another resource that we have is an Area Agency on Aging, which often is referred to as a AAA, not the I can help you on the side of the road AAA, but Area Agency on Aging. And that's a federal program that was established by the Older Americans Act. And that is federal funding and also state funding that goes out to each state. And the mission of a AAA is to keep people independent in their homes as long as possible, as long as that's safe for everyone and they have adequate care. It's also referred to aging in place. I think most of us want to, but how do we do that? Right? If you've priced companies for home care, sometimes it's like $25 an hour or something, and you're thinking, how am I going to pay for in-home care for this person for the rest of their life? That's where these triple A's come in. So how, in a general sense, how this would work is you would call your area agency on aging. You would let them know what's going on, what the person you're caring for needs help with, what you need help with. Then they would do an assessment, whether it be in person or by phone. They would see what's working, what's not working. They would come up with a plan of care. Then they would try to find funding to match that plan. Sometimes a person qualifies very easily. Sometimes they have to work to get their income and resources. Sometimes there's other funding sources that are available. So the entry point of even starting that process is calling that area agency on aging and let them know, hey, we want to keep this person independent at home as long as possible. Help us do that. So I reached out to our local area agency on aging and I told them about this webinar and I said, hey, what would you want to tell somebody who's sitting here about the triple A's? And this is what he had to say. He said, we want you to know that there's an entire caregiver community ready to offer emotional support and resources to help you stay healthy and strong. If you're a caregiver for a loved one, near or far, you are already doing one of the most important and toughest jobs in your life. You deserve some support in your corner, and that is what you will find here. And I think that will ring true with every AAA. They want you to call. They want to help. So it's not sometimes we think, oh, I can't call them until this person is at this point, He's still bathing and dressing, so I don't know if I should call. Go ahead and call and see what support services are available in your area. The earlier, the better. Sometimes, like I said, you may not qualify for a certain program or there may be a waiting list. Different things come into play. So sometimes you need to reach out to an elder attorney to help you qualify for some of those programs. So a lot of places at these AAAs use a Medicaid waiver to help get services in the home. That Medicaid waiver has income and resource limits based on where you're living, but a lot of times somebody will turn to that elder attorney to help them qualify. So it's not a cheat to the system in any way, certainly not. The state would like for you to keep your person at home. They would like to help pay for care. You pay for care, and together you can prevent nursing home placement if that's your goal and that person can be safe at home. So a lot of people will work with an elder attorney to help them get their resources and income at those limits. So thinking about attorneys, we work with an attorney that helps for the here and now. So that's an attorney who does things like a power of attorney, living will, healthcare representative, the things that happen now. An elder attorney is different because they are planning for your future. So they may be able to work with you to preserve your assets and resources if nursing home placement could be a possibility down the road. Or they could help preserve what you have now if the Medicaid waiver may be something that you need down the road. So the earlier that you talk to an elder attorney, the more likely that they are to help you preserve your resources and be able to keep someone at home. Pre-planning is where it's all at because as a caregiver, I know often I would be waiting for that other shoe to drop, right? I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So using these resources and building a plan just helps build that confidence of, hey, I can take whatever comes my way. And you may be thinking, okay, she keeps talking about this elder attorney. How do I find one? So you can call our 24/7 line. Like I said, it's not an endorsement of a specific elder attorney, but it's a way for you to start finding one. You can use that communityresourcefinder.org. you can go to the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys, and they can help connect you with somebody. And if you're not sure how you would pay for that, or you're looking for some assistance, you can go to lawhelp.org, and they can connect you with one of those community programs. Your area agency on aging should also be able to help connect you to some of those legal resources if you need them. And then we're looking at, okay, I have all these resources, and our hope is that you reduce your stress. I know as a caregiver, people would say, how are you doing? Are you really stressed? And I'm like, no, I'm not stressed. This is my daily life. But if I would have gotten a handout like this one on the right, I would have known, hey, I had a lot of caregiver stress. It's looking at denial, anger, social withdrawal, anxiety, depression, exhaustion, not being able to sleep, irritability, lack of concentration, health problems. A lot of caregivers experience those at different points or all at the same time. So these are some ways that I think would be good to help manage that caregiver stress so that you can be a healthier caregiver. Take a break. And you may be thinking, how do I do that? I don't have anyone to help me. Look at your family in that circle that we talked about. Who can help you take a break? If your brother says, I can't see mom like that, it's just too hard to go inside, I can't do it, then mow the lawn, right? Don't come in. Or pick up the mail out of the mailbox and bring it to the porch. Whatever needs to happen so that you can get some support and take that break. Seeking out those community resources, not being fearful. Sometimes we get in that thought of like, hey, if I have this plan, then maybe something bad's going to happen. Or, if I take this step, I don't know what will happen next. The earlier you seek out those community resources, the more support you will have down the road. And then taking care of your own health, making sure that you give yourself as much care as you're giving. I know we would get into that cycle of, hey, I have to go pick up grandma's prescriptions. I can't make it to mine. I'll go tomorrow. Then it's busy and they're closed. And then it's been a couple of days since you've picked up your own medication. We don't want that to happen. And then managing your level of stress. So I know when I work with caregivers, pretty much two things happen. They say, I don't know if I'm doing enough, or I wish I would have done more. And that's the thing about this disease. If being a perfect caregiver or loving someone enough could eliminate the symptoms of this disease, no one would suffer, right? But unfortunately, that's not enough. Being the perfect caregiver and loving and all those things, it's not enough to eliminate what's happening. It's a progressive disease. And so knowing that when we get that education, we can plan for what's ahead, but then knowing we can only understand and respond to what's happening. We can't control it. Thinking about, hey, here are the things that I can control about this disease, which is not very many, right? And then looking at what we can control. We can control our stress. We can take steps to manage our health. We can focus our time and attention to what we can control. And accepting changes as they occur. Something that I've really worked on with caregivers is that caregiver guilt that happens where we start to feel guilty about things that we shouldn't be. But guilt is a motivator. That's how we caregive for the long haul, right? We would feel guilty if we left them. We don't want them to suffer alone. We want to be there for them. So that guilt is important because it motivates us to do this. But it's when it affects us negatively that we really have to let that go and really think about what we can control and what we can't control, what we can understand and respond to. And when you do that, you'll see that you're already doing your best, and that's enough. You make choices based on what you know today, the tools you have today, and that's all you can do. So really letting go of some of those things can help manage your stress and help use these resources. So I really appreciate everyone being here today. And like I said, the more that we talk about this, the more that we show other people, hey, we can't do this alone. We need these community resources. We need support. We need these support groups. So I just really appreciate that you took the time to spend with me today, and I hope you gained some resources from it. So I'll turn it back to Mike.
Okay. Thank you so much, Brianne. We've got two questions. The first question somebody asked is, what is the cost for the services that the Alzheimer's Association provides to caregivers?
Well, the association provides all of their resources to caregivers for free. So you can do any training, you can use these online tools, you can go to support group programs. They're all free. Um, and we hope that it makes people come out to know that, hey, we just want you here and we're glad you're here.
Great. The other question is, what if my husband doesn't have Alzheimer's? We're in the process of getting a diagnosis, but he has a different form of dementia. I
Yeah,
think they're
these tools,
concerned about those resources. Are they available regardless of the cause of the dementia?
yes. So the Alzheimer's Association helps with Alzheimer's disease, but all forms of dementia or even suspected. I mean, sometimes people will not get a diagnosis for a while. They know something's happening. And even these tools a lot can, the broader sense of any chronic condition, caregiving, but definitely all these resources are available to anyone that's caring with somebody for Alzheimer's disease or any form of dementia. And when we go into some of those topic sheets and when you go into some of that information online, it'll have the different types of dementia listed, and you can get some things that are more beneficial to maybe what that diagnosis is.
Great. Great. Well, that is about all the time we have for today. Thank you all for logging in. Breanne Hill, thank you so much for spending your time and expertise with us.
Thanks.
All right. Well, I hope that we'll see you all again at a future webinar at alzwebinars.org. Have a great day.